Do you have any idea what it costs to wipe a person's life off the map in the black magic underground? $23,000. That is the exact price someone paid just 11 days ago to target you using nothing more than a single photograph. Before you brush this off as superstition or exaggeration, pause and really listen. What you are hearing is not symbolic, not metaphorical, and not random. This message reached you because something has already been set into motion. Forces you never chose have been activated, and the moment you pressed play, a boundary was crossed. This is not fear speaking. This is exposure. This is light cutting through something that was meant to remain hidden. Whether you fully see it yet or not, your life is standing at the edge of a major turning point. Across the world there are hundreds of thousands who operate in the shadows, not casual dabblers, not people treating it like entertainment. These are disciplined practitioners who have devoted their entire lives to rituals intended to disrupt destiny itself. They do not come cheap. They are paid to end trajectories, to cut off futures, to dismantle identities. And one of them accepted a contract involving you. She is 68 years old, part of a bloodline that has carried this practice since 1620, passed down like a legacy of darkness. For decades she sharpened her precision, her patience, and her certainty. Over a lifetime, she completed 4,137 assignments. Not one failure, not one reversal, until your image came into her possession. At 3:33 in the morning, on Friday the 13th, her fingers touched your photograph, and something she had never encountered responded. There was no noise, no drama, only an ending. Her body collapsed before her certainty had time to catch up. She spent 7 days hospitalized with neurological trauma no physician could explain, because what struck her did not originate in the nervous system. It came from a higher order of authority she did not believe could be activated against her. That night did not end with her alone. Across 5 different countries, seasoned witches woke from sleep, screaming, shaken by a rupture they could feel but not locate. Something ancient shifted, something sealed was disturbed. The ground beneath their systems cracked. Because when a life marked by purpose is touched by forces meant to erase it, the collision does not stay contained. This is not about fear. This is about revelation. You are not here because you are vulnerable. You are here because you are identified. Like Joseph, whose destiny provoked betrayal before it ever produced provision. Like Moses, targeted in infancy because deliverance had already been written into his breath. The resistance did not arise because you were weak. It arose because you were recognized. What was sent to dismantle you instead exposed what has been guarding you all along. The strike did not land because you are not unprotected. You are not unclaimed. You are not moving through life unnoticed. Something older than curses, stronger than rituals, and higher than any lineage has already marked you as untouchable. And now that this has been revealed, the pressure will only increase, because awakening always intensifies the battlefield before it clears the path forward. What was released against you carried 61 years of accumulated force, layered and reinforced by entities trained to amplify destruction. It was designed to burrow in, to linger, to erode you quietly over time. But it did not attach, it did not circle, it did not merely rebound. The moment it made contact with your field, it was returned sevenfold, multiplied with precision, carrying back the full weight of its own intent. This was not ordinary protection. This was law in motion. What surrounds you is not a shield that reacts late. It is a structure that anticipates a celestial design so uncommon that only a handful of living souls on this planet carry it fully activated. Long before you learned your own name, before breath shaped your first cry, a system was set in place that does not defend by blocking, but by transforming. Every strike becomes evidence, every weapon becomes testimony, every force sent to undo you is repurposed to undo its source. This is why resistance has always seemed to backfire around you, why those who moved against you collapsed under pressures they could not explain, why hostility dissolved without confrontation. This is not chance, it is alignment. It is the echo of a higher command embedded into your existence. Like Daniel, untouched in the den while the threat lost its authority. Like Elijah, who could not be consumed by what was sent to consume him. The fire knows when it has met something it cannot burn. What unfolded that night did not stop with the first reversal. Second by second, the unseen layers responded. Signals traveled through realms that do not speak in words. The occult world felt it immediately. Panic did not spread because of you alone, but because your existence revealed a flaw in their assumptions. There are lives they cannot penetrate. There are seals older than their systems, and once discovered, those seals cannot be ignored. Someone invested heavily in your eraser because your presence interferes with their order. They paid to silence something that disrupts decay simply by standing upright. And when the counterforce reached back through the channel they opened, it carried clarity, not chaos, exposure, not confusion, the realization that you are protected by design, not circumstance. This is why people with harmful intent drift away without explanation, why dense spaces settle when you enter, why conflict loses momentum around you. These are not social patterns, they are responses. The seals are active, the architecture is intact, and the closer you move toward your true assignment, the more unmistakable this pattern will become. Because what guards you also announces that you were never meant to be erased. Thursday the 22nd, 11:47 at night, an encrypted message arrived in the hands of a witch known here as Morgana, a name altered to honor the enforced silences of the occult world. Inside the message was your photograph. The transfer followed instantly, $23,000. Alongside it, a symbol drawn in red, unmistakable in its meaning. Annihilation without return. Not disruption, not delay. Eraser across every layer of existence. Finances collapsing, health unraveling, relationships detonating, the mind splintering inward. This was her specialty. This was what she was known for. Using photographs as gateways, she had dismantled 4,137 lives, each one catalogued, each one measured. Her success rate averaged 9.3 out of 10. Precision was her pride. But when her eyes fell on your image, something ruptured that no ritual had prepared her for. Her third eye burned physically. She jerked the phone away, breath caught in her chest. Later, she would describe it as staring directly into a spiritual sun, too bright, too alive, too much. For the first time in 61 years of practice, she considered refusal. Something in her knew this was not ordinary ground. But money speaks loudly to ego, and ego speaks louder to fear. 4 centuries of lineage stood behind her. Thousands of completed works echoed in her confidence. She told herself no protection was impenetrable. That decision sealed the moment. She chose excess. She chose force. She summoned the 6 most powerful witches of her coven to reinforce the act. The ritual was scheduled for Friday the 13th. 7 days of preparation began immediately. 7 full days of accumulation. She fasted completely, weakening the body to sharpen the channel. She meditated in graveyards, sitting over ancient tombs, drawing from the stillness of death. She traveled to a forest where a serial killer had buried 7 victims and collected soil from each site, treating every handful as a conduit. Animals were sacrificed, blood was blended with bone ash, 24 hours were spent in trance, invoking entities that answer only when something living is offered in exchange. She made pacts with her own vitality, bargaining pieces of herself for amplified reach. A doll was created using your photograph. Every stitch sewn with thread buried 3 days in a cemetery. Every seam marked with symbols designed to bind, fracture, and command. 13 needles were prepared, each bathed in poison, each cursed separately. Thursday the 12th marked the final setup. An altar was built in a sealed room, your photograph placed precisely at the center. 13 black candles surrounded it. A circle of salt mixed with powder from the 7 locations enclosed the space. A pentagram was drawn with her blood. Symbols filled the floor, taking 3 hours to complete. The other 6 were summoned. Tomorrow at 11 at night, she told them, "This will be the most powerful ritual of my life. I want witnesses." Friday the 13th arrived. 7 witches gathered from 11 at night until 3 o'clock in the morning. Preparations continued. The space was purified. Protections were activated. Minds were altered. At exactly 3 o'clock, the ritual began. Morgana stood before the altar. 6 formed a circle around her. The lights were extinguished. 13 black candles cast moving shadows across the walls. Her voice shifted as she called out, no longer fully her own, deeper, heavier, unnatural. She spoke of blood, of life force, of total annihilation. For 33 minutes, she released everything accumulated over 7 days. Every word spoken in distorted Latin, every gesture amplifying intent, every breath carrying destruction. The air thickened, temperature dropped, presences manifested, shadows moved without source. Whispers filled the room in languages not meant for human mouths. The 6 felt the power rising, swelling beyond containment. At 3:32 in the morning, something answered that none of them had summoned. Morgana stretched out both hands and made contact with your photograph. In that single instant, reality broke its own pattern. What followed had never been recorded in any of their grimoires. Your image ignited, not with heat, but with presence. A golden radiance erupted, so fierce and absolute that all 13 black candles were extinguished at once. Darkness collapsed. The room was flooded with light brighter than every switch could summon. Morgana screamed as if her body recognized judgment before her mind could form words. The 6 recoiled, covering their eyes as the light pressed against them with physical pain. But Morgana was forced to see there was no escape from the vision. Around your image, 7 circles of living gold appeared. Each ring rotated in the opposite direction of the one beside it, perfectly ordered, impossibly precise. Symbols burned within them like celestial fire, markings older than language, radiant with authority she had never encountered. Her breath shattered as the realization struck her. The seals. It has 7 seals. The words left her mouth in terror, not awe. In that moment, comprehension arrived with violence. This was not protection that waits. This was not defense that reacts. It was like the ark that could not be approached without consequence, like the wall of fire revealed to Alicia's servant when his sight was finally opened. By the time she understood, it was already too late. She had reached into something governed by order, not disorder. The seals did not dim or hesitate. They intensified. Energy folded inward and outward simultaneously, building beyond anything she had ever encountered. What had been directed toward you did not simply continue its course. It was reorganized, recalculated, and redirected with a precision that surpassed human intention. This was not reaction, this was design. An ancient, exact system that responded the instant contact occurred. She did not activate it, she set it off. And in that overwhelming convergence of light, Morgana realized a truth that shattered everything she believed she understood. You were never meant to be broken. You were marked. You were encoded. You were sealed long before anyone ever reached for your image. Everything she had unleashed came rushing back in a single surge. 33 minutes of focused intent. 7 days of gathered force. Every entity she had called upon, none of it remained outside the return. It did not come back as it was sent. It returned amplified. What left as one came back as 7. What was projected outward reversed direction with exact precision. The burden she tried to place became the burden she had to carry. In a single instant, the balance of power reversed. Morgana screamed. The sound ripped through the walls, raw and unnatural, carrying a depth of pain that went beyond the physical. People 2 blocks away heard it and instinctively reached for their phones. Her body was hurled nearly 3 meters, crashing into the wall with enough force to fracture bone. 2 ribs shattered on impact. Her consciousness began to slip. But just before everything went dark, she saw it. The 7 circles expanding, separating from your photograph, moving freely across dimensions without resistance, closing distance instantly, striking her chest as one coordinated force. 7 rays pierced her simultaneously, not chaotic, exact. Each one carried authority. They burned through her like fire that does not merely consume, but cleanses. What had accumulated over 61 years was undone in seconds. Layer after layer of darkness stripped away, not gently, not slowly, but completely. It was exposure by light, refinement by force. Like Saul on the road, struck down by brilliance he could not stand against, blinded by a truth that did not ask permission. The others panicked. 3 collapsed where they stood, overwhelmed by the energetic shock, their bodies shut down under pressure they had no framework to process. The remaining 3 could not move. They watched frozen as blood ran from Morgana's nose, her eyes, her ears. This was not symbolic. This was physical. The unseen had crossed fully into matter. One of them crawled across the floor and grabbed a phone, hands shaking, inventing a story about a fall down the stairs. Paramedics arrived to a scene that made no sense. Morgana was rushed to the hospital with vital signs barely holding. Scans were ordered, CT, MRI. Everything came back inconclusive. No trauma explained what they were seeing. No diagnosis fit the collapse of her nervous system. She slipped into a coma, not natural, induced. Doctors stood uncertain, unable to say if she would wake. And for the next 7 days, exactly 7, she remained suspended between worlds in intensive care. Machines breathed for her. Time slowed. What had been activated could not be reversed. Because when a life marked by purpose is struck, the response does not negotiate. It answers. And once the counterforce is released, it completes its work fully, leaving no question about where true authority resides. While her body lay unconscious, something far larger was unfolding beyond hospital walls. The occult world began to tremble, not because the sick spoke, they swore silence. But events of that magnitude cannot be concealed where sight is not bound by flesh. When a level 9 curse rebounds 7-fold, it tears through unseen layers like a shockwave. Sensitives within 200 kilometers felt it instantly. A medium 150 kilometers away woke at 3:33 in the morning screaming, shaken by a vision of golden light erupting without warning. Reports surfaced independently. A woman struck by descending rays, a witch in another region describing a spiritual earthquake. The astral plane itself destabilized. In a neighboring country, a seasoned practitioner endured the same nightmare for 3 consecutive nights. A photograph glowing, a woman screaming, 7 circles erasing everything they touched as fragments accumulated across closed networks. The experienced began to understand what had happened. Someone had attacked a protected life, not guarded by rituals, but by design. Architectural protection, the seals. Saturday the 14th, 11 in the morning. Leaders of covens from 5 nations convened in an ultra-encrypted meeting. Brazil, Spain, Mexico, Argentina, the United States. One topic only: untouchable. A Brazilian witch, 72 years old, spoke first. I performed an energetic reading. This person carries a seal. I have seen it only in ancient texts. You cannot obtain it. You are born with it. The Spanish witch, 84, head of the oldest coven in Europe, followed. I consulted the Akashic records. Only 7 incarnated souls carry this mark at one time. The last recorded attack was in 1784. The witch died 3 days later. Then a Mexican medium spoke, voice unsteady. I had a vision of Archangel Michael. He appeared without being summoned. He said, "This soul is under my direct protection. I place the seals before incarnation. Whoever touches them, touches me." I respond with force multiplied 7 times. Silence filled the channel, heavy, absolute. Michael is not a minor presence, commander of celestial armies, authority in spiritual warfare. If he personally sealed a life, that life carries an assignment. Heaven will not risk losing. The Spanish witch broke the silence. This person is now under absolute blacklist, total red code. No one accepts work against them. The counterforce is automatic, instant, multiplied 7 times. There is no defense, there is no evasion. No one objected. Your name was entered into cult records under a category reserved for only 7 living souls, the 7 sealed. And while they recorded and retreated, time continued its quiet march. Monday the 16th, 8:37 in the morning. The world looked unchanged, but the unseen order had already adjusted itself around you. Because once a truth like this is revealed, it cannot be unrevealed. And once a life is recognized at that level, everything else must move accordingly. Before we continue, let's pause for a moment. This isn't a small moment, and it's not happening by chance. If this message has touched your heart, take a deep breath and allow yourself to be fully present. Before we go any further, I want you to do something seemingly simple, yet profoundly spiritual. An act of spiritual acceptance. First, like this video, let that click be more than just a gesture. Let it be a silent declaration. I welcome what God is saying into my life. Second, subscribe and stay connected, not just with one channel, as we're aiming for 5,000 subscribers, but with a flow of messages that guide, awaken, and strengthen your spirit, so you don't miss out on what's meant for you. Third, write the number 999 or 777 in the comments as your declaration. Write your city and location in the comments. Lord, I am the one you are looking for. I embrace the transformation you are leading me toward. And for those who feel guided by the Lord and are able to support this mission through prayer, words, or by sending a super thanks, know that you are not simply giving, you are standing alongside us as a companion in this sacred task, helping this message reach others who are seeking hope and guidance. Amen. Morgana woke from the coma with a scream, not a word, a recognition. The seals. It has 7 seals. 7. Nurses rushed in, doctors followed. They called it delirium, trauma response, neurological shock. Sedatives were administered.
But when the 6 witches visited that afternoon, they knew exactly what had happened. When her speech stabilized, Morgana spoke with unnerving clarity. I saw them. 7 circles of golden light, each rotating, each counter to the next. She described them as perfectly synchronized celestial mechanisms, like living gears forged from light, covered in symbols that were not written to be read, but understood. A divine language. My mind couldn't decode it, she said, but my spirit knew. Architectural protection, automatic counterforce, 7-fold multiplication. One of them asked quietly, "Why 7?" "Because 7 is completion," Morgana replied. 7 days of creation, 7 heavens, 7 archangels, 7 seals of revelation. 7 marks the closing of a cycle that cannot be broken. When God assigns absolute protection to a soul, he uses 7-fold design because it forms a loop without entry points. Trying to break it is like trying to stop the rotation of the earth. It cannot be interrupted. This person does not carry added protection. It is structural, integrated into the essence of the soul. To strike them is to strike order itself, and order always responds. Another voice trembled. "Is there any way to break the seals?" Morgana didn't hesitate. "It would require authority greater than Michael. Does anyone here possess that?" Silence answered. "Exactly. The seals are unbreakable." This soul is unreachable by dark magic. As Morgana's body began the slow process of recovery, doctors warned of months of therapy. Her left side remained partially paralyzed. But elsewhere, movement of a different kind began. 2 of the 6 abandoned the craft entirely. They burned tools, destroyed altars. 1 sought out a priest, shaken by a realization she could not escape. If protection like this exists, then the divine is real, and I don't want to stand on the wrong side of reality. The other 4 continued, but everything changed. A new protocol was adopted. Before accepting any work, they now test for the seals. No one wants to become another warning. And here is the part that matters most. While all of this was unfolding, while covens panicked and blacklists circulated, and your existence was debated in encrypted rooms, you felt nothing. No nightmare, no heaviness, no sense of threat. You slept peacefully, because the 7 seals do not require awareness. They do not require belief, faith, prayer, or permission. They are autonomous, installed before your first breath. Threat detected, power assessed, counterforce calculated, multiplied by 7, executed instantly while you rest. But now you must understand why you carry them. Before incarnation, there was a council, a convergence of intention. Your soul guides angelic authority. Most souls choose lives of manageable weight, comfortable challenges, growth without great risk. Rarely a soul steps forward and chooses something far more demanding. A mission so heavy, it requires extraordinary protection simply to survive. You were one of those. You chose to enter a time thick with spiritual distortion, to live where darkness multiplies quietly, where psychic pressure is common. And you chose not to fight it directly, but to neutralize it simply by being present, to anchor light without announcing it, to stabilize without confrontation. The room fell silent when you spoke, because such a mission invites constant attack. Michael objected, not to the mission, but to the risk. If this soul is placed in high-density darkness, purifying continuously, the pressure will be relentless. Without absolute protection, they will not last. So, a system was designed. The first seal reflects attacks to their source. The second multiplies that reflection. The third continuously cleanses your field. The fourth causes those with dark intent to feel discomfort near you. The fifth expands your luminous presence within 50 meters.
The sixth extends protection to those under your care or attention. The seventh governs all the others, synchronizing them into a single living architecture.
Together they do not add, they multiply. 1 + 1 does not equal 2, it becomes 14. This is why Morgana did not simply receive what she sent. The system transformed it and returned everything amplified. Remember that person who left your life suddenly without a clear reason, the fourth seal. Their nervous system sensed threat to what they carried, so they withdrew. Remember walking into a tense environment and feeling it soften within minutes. The fifth seal, your presence recalibrates space. Remember when someone confided in you and later said they felt lighter just from speaking. The sixth seal, your field expanded to include them. This has been happening quietly for years, your entire life, the seals working without spectacle. But something has changed now. You are no longer anonymous in the unseen. Your protection has been mapped, your existence recorded. Morgana's collapse circulates as a cautionary legend. The one who touched a sealed life, 7 days in intensive care, nearly lost everything. Those who once could attack now will not. You have become untouchable, not because you sought power, but because power was assigned to preserve the mission you carry. And yet there's one final piece you must understand. Who paid the $23,000 to erase you? Morgana never breaks professional code. Silence is law in her world. But recovery weakens even the most disciplined. In one unguarded moment, she admitted the truth. The one who ordered it was not distant, not unknown. It was someone near, someone who knows your voice, someone who has sat close enough to study your light, someone who smiles easily, speaks kindly, and carries envy so deep it justified a fortune to see you undone. And when the counterforce struck Morgana, it did not end with her body on a hospital bed. The seals do not stop at the hands that act. They trace origin, they follow intent, they move backward along the thread of decision. Not only the executive is seen, but the one who commissioned, approved and paid. That person was not hit with the same measure. They did not perform the ritual. Their portion was different, but it was still multiplied. Threefold, exact, precise. In the days that followed, their life began to unravel. Finances destabilized without warning, health issues surfaced unexpectedly, relationships fractured under pressure they could not explain. What they wished upon you began manifesting around them instead. This is not symbolism, this is law. Karma is not philosophy. It is a functioning system woven into reality. When someone moves against a sealed life, consequence is not equal. It is proportional to responsibility. They still do not understand what is happening. They call it bad luck, a rough season, a coincidence of misfortune. They have no idea they are inside a return cycle. And the more they struggle to escape it by force, manipulation or blame, the deeper the pattern tightens. Because divine order does not negotiate once activated, it completes what it begins. This is not new. Hermon built a gallows for Maury and was the one who hung from it. Joseph's brothers plotted his fall and unknowingly set the stage for their own dependence on the one they tried to bury. The principle is ancient. What is sent returns. What is aimed reveals the heart. And when the target is a life marked for purpose, the echo is louder. You did not cause this. You did not wish it. You did not ask for retaliation. You remained still. That is why the response is not yours to carry. The seals handle it without your involvement. Justice does not require your awareness to function. And this is the final clarity you need to hold. You are not protected because you are fragile.
You are protected because what you carry cannot be interrupted.
Those who rise against you are not facing you. They are colliding with order itself. And order always restores balance, even when the ones caught inside it never understand why their world began to fall apart. Now hear this as it comes from beyond the surface of things. The pain you survived was not punishment. The collapse you endured was not failure. The pressure that tried to crush you was evidence. Evidence that something divine was pressing back through your life. The 7 who carry the seals were never chosen at random. They were aligned, positioned, counted. Exactly 7 living souls, no more and no less. Each placed in a different region of the earth: North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Oceania, the Middle East. 7 points, 7 anchors, 7 lives, holding the planet steady in ways no map can show. Each one quietly alters the space around them. But when 2 draw near, something ancient activates. Their fields don't add, they synchronize. What should be small becomes exponential. 3 together stretch beyond distance. 4 bend scale, and when all 7 awaken in conscious alignment, the effect is no longer local, no longer regional. It becomes global. That is why you were marked, not for comfort, not for safety, but for timing. What you went through was the signal flare. Morgana's attack was not coincidence. It was permitted as ignition. The universe allowed a force strong enough to strike the architecture so that the response would expose it. You were meant to awaken, not gently, but unmistakably. And now you have. You carry 7 seals. You are one of 7 alive. Your function is anchor of light. This does not require retreat from the world. It requires presence, consciousness. When you enter a place and the weight lifts, that is not imagination. When certain people drift away without explanation, that is not loss. When someone steadies simply by being near you, that is not chance. It is the seals at work. You do not need fear. You do not need defense. You do not need to harden yourself. An architecture older than conflict already stands watch. Every attack is reversed. Every hostile force becomes its own undoing. You are not designed to fight darkness. You were designed to outlast it by being exactly who you are. Remember what happened. A seasoned practitioner attempted erasure at the highest level available to her world. Someone close to you funded it. The ritual was timed, reinforced, precise, and it collapsed inward 7-fold. Bodies broke, reputations fell, lives unraveled, not because you acted, but because you remained aligned. That is not weakness, that is authority. The unseen world took notice. Records were updated, boundaries were drawn. Your existence became a line that will not be crossed again. And now, as you awaken consciously, you move toward the next phase. Not confrontation, not noise. Synchronization. When the 7 stand awake together, when alignment replaces anonymity, something ancient stirs. Darkness does not fall because it is fought. It fades because it cannot exist beside structured light. And that structured light is what you hold within you. You were never meant to stand out for show. You were meant to serve a purpose. If everything you have endured has felt like preparation, if the weight on your shoulders always seemed heavier than the moment required, if your life has felt guided by forces you could never fully explain, it is because that was always the design. This is not an ending, it is a revelation. Now that you recognize the door already open before you, the question is no longer whether something is beginning, but how deeply everything will transform once you fully step into what has always been waiting for you. Source of light beyond all names,
and beyond time. I stand here aware, not asking for ease, but for alignment. What shook me has shaped me. What tried to break me has revealed me. I accept that my wounds were not random, but intentional marks. Let every scar carry its meaning. Where fear once spoke, let clarity rise. Where pressure once weighed me down, let strength now stand confirmed. I do not ask to avoid the path. I ask to walk it with clear sight and steady posture. If I was placed here to anchor something greater, let me remain grounded. If my presence brings order, let it move naturally through me. Let what does not belong to me fall away without resistance. Let what is meant to awaken be drawn closer. I release the need to fight battles that were never mine. I release the urge to explain what was never meant to be forced into understanding. I accept the timing written long before memory. I accept the calling that endured through every collapse. Stand with me as I move forward, not louder, but more truthful, not hardened, but aligned. And as unseen shifts unfold around me, let my life quietly prove that light does not chase darkness. It simply arrives, and everything else makes way.